Hey everyone, my name is Deven Wisner with Viable Insights. I'm really excited to have you join myself and Phil Stoeklen to talk about Viable Insights' institutional review board, VIRB, or as we affectionately call it, VIRB. So, Phil, do you want to give us just maybe a quick introduction on yourself for those who maybe don't know you?
Sure thing. I'm Phil Stoeklen. I am a partner at Viable Insights and also the administrator for our IRB service VIRB that Devin just referenced.
Awesome. So today, I think what we really want to do is give folks a snapshot into the why behind Verb, and really what the experience is like working with us. And, really not more importantly, but just as importantly, talk about the launch of our new learning center, and more specifically, our course, Protecting People in Research and Evaluation. So PPRE, because what our field needed was really one more acronym. But with that in mind, could you just give us some background on Verb, Phil? Like, how did we get here? Why has this been such an important part of our work as an organization focused on making data more accessible, more approachable, and really more human?
For sure, yeah. With Viable Insights being a community-based applied research and evaluation firm that really likes to root ethics into our practice, we've relied on IRBs historically for our projects, and essentially what we found is probably what a lot of people have found that are engaging with these bureaucratic systems is that they're not actually very user friendly, especially for folks that might have a timeline. We did some research a few years ago about what it would take to go about starting an IRB that maybe could help address this issue for our specific niche field that we have. Um, Essentially, what we wanted to do, we set out to really create an IRB that satisfied three things. We wanted to have an IRB option that was accessible to folks. Not everybody is connected to a higher education institution, which is where the majority of IRBs are kind of housed. There are private options out there as well, but the majority of folks were relying on universities essentially to
Sure.
satisfy their IRB needs. So we wanted to create something that was more usable for folks that didn't have that connection. The second thing we wanted to satisfy was having an option that was more affordable. If you're not part of a university, again, and you go in there to get an IRB review done, they're likely going to charge you an external rate, and that can be several $1,000s, which is what we kind of eventually learned on our last project that we consulted with the university on, and at that point that was kind of our catalyst for digging in and figuring out what other options might exist. Um, but like I said, we wanted to create something that's affordable. So our IRB, we charge a flat rate for our reviews, essentially at three different tiers, and it's depending on the type of review that we're doing. So exempt reviews, expedited reviews, and those requiring a full board. And our rates go anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500, with most of them coming in at the $1,000 to $1,250 mark. With being exempt and expedited, respectively. So another thing about our rates that we've kind of wanted to make clear to folks is that we don't nickel and dime folks for the number of protocols that they submit or the number of consent forms that have to be reviewed. In our opinion, the more information we have, the better. So charging people by the page doesn't really make this a very accessible option. And our rates that we have set really are what we see as being what's necessary for us to make this a sustainable offering to
Sure.
folks, and also provide some the ability for us to adequately pay our board members for their time and expertise. Um, And then kind of finally, the third reason why we wanted to start Verb was that we wanted to have something that was more practical for people that are in our world of applied research and evaluation. So a lot of universities, like I said at the beginning, timelines and bureaucracy can be an issue. We just found that there was a lot of unnecessary red tape around submitting an IRB, and a lot of the timelines weren't very practical. They'd be up to 6 weeks. And, Devin, maybe you could speak to this, but I don't know if you've ever had a project where you just have an extra 6 weeks lying around where you can wait for an IRB to come in before you actually start the work. So we wanted to really address that, and in doing so, our average turnaround for reviews is about 7 days. That's kind of like the why we came about, and yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's perfect, right? I mean, some of the best solutions or disruptions happen when you realize that something isn't working. And I think personally, we experienced that with the projects we were working on, but both having really an attachment and appreciation for really the role of an IRB, but certainly noticing that, especially for our field and for community researchers, it just really wasn't meeting their expectations and kind of the realities of the work that they were doing. So I think, one thing I just wanted to pause and do, because again, acronyms and names, could you just like tell us a little bit about like what we were trying to do with VIRB, what we were trying to do with the name there, besides merging VI and IRB together?
Happy accident on that. No, painful process to try to come up with an acronym that kind of blended our brands.
But naming is so
Essentially,
fun. Naming
it
things is
did.
such a blast.
Absolutely. It actually worked out really well, and the meaning really captures what we were trying to do, which was bring ethical research and evaluation into action. So a lot of folks, especially in the evaluation world, they don't necessarily see IRBs as necessary to their work, only because
Mhm.
they're not conducting academic research.
Sure.
And I completely get that. The way that the federal government has restructured IRBs, especially in 2018 with the Common Rule changes, they added quality improvement activities and evaluation work as being kind of one of those exempt categories from IRB oversight. However, what we're trying to address is kind of more of a zeitgeist shift, where looking at these things as less of a check the box, I need to do it, and more of, it never hurts to have another set of eyes on this. And
Yeah.
going through an IRB process helps one really think through what the participant experience is going to be in whatever project that I'm about to essentially inflict on people. So
Yeah.
uh, I, I don't know. I think it's been really well received, especially by our evaluation partners, because they do see this as being really critical. And, it's easy to say that, we engage in ethical work as a field, and we're all person-centered, and, considering the experience that they're having. But it's another thing entirely to actually, submit what you're going to do to a third party, and kind of go under that cold light of,
Yeah.
a review from people that don't have a stake in your project, but they do have a stake in protecting the people that you're looking to work with. So yeah, that's really over the past year and a half or so, we've been doing a lot of outreach to not only our affiliate groups through our professional organization, the American Evaluation Association, but also organizations that are like ours, like Viable Insights, and having dialogues around like the importance of um, engaging in an IRB process. And even if it's not with our IRB, just engaging with the process, because it's very helpful in terms of a reflective engagement, as well as, like I said, just having another set of eyes on this, and maybe poking some holes in some assumptions that we all make as researchers. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something interesting that you touched on, is that to some degree it's a reflective or like even evaluation exercise for the evaluator and the work that they've pulled together. And I think that similar to how in the evaluation work and the organizational development work we do at VI, we never want someone to feel as if this is you're under the magnifying glass, right? Like this is collaborative, this is reflective, and an opportunity to have critical dialogue and conversation, right? And so all of this bettering, whether it is on the eval side where we're bettering programs, and being in service to and with folks, to an IRB submission. I think that that's really the approach we want to take. And I think that, just based on some of the things you've heard from people, and maybe there's an opportunity for you to share a little bit about that, more than you even did, is that people are feeling that difference, right?
100%. And yes, thank you for saying that. You actually alluded to this earlier. And one of the most common bits of feedback that we receive from folks is that our IRB does feel like it's more built and catered to folks that aren't part of academia, and that's largely due to the fact that we've kind of declinicalized the process, where
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like, we're treating people that are doing maybe non-academic research
Right.
the same way as those folks. And so I think that has been a huge like positive reception on that front.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess, just kind of turning our attention to the fact that we have an upcoming course launch. But before we kind of pivot in that direction, where can people learn more about VIRB? I know they can visit our website, send us a message. But again, who is this IRB for? And again, why is it a game changer for folks? Why should they be considering our IRB over perhaps another one?
Well, you pointed out the probably the best place to start, which is our website. We have resources on there and our blog, several VIRB specific blogs on, and this is anybody could access these things. They're not like behind a paywall or anything. Topics on consent and research, how to manage and mitigate risk for your participants. Those are all out there and available for public consumption. But honestly, I found that the best way to have a discussion about this is just to set up a time to talk. And this is kind of part of our process, which is, again, how we try to make this a more collaborative exercise. Okay, so I was talking about how a lot of IRBs are in public institutions. There are private options out there, but again, they approach this more like an assembly line, where it's just like submit your stuff, we'll get it done, send it back. What I like to do is have an upfront conversation with the folks that are about to submit. That way I can walk them through our process, answer any questions they have, and learn a little bit more about what they're about to do, because I might be able to provide some guidance on, oh, well, make sure you include this on your consent forms. Do you have consent forms? If not, I'll send you a template. Things like that. So honestly, a conversation is always my favorite place to start, just because it does clear up a lot of those things and decrease the back and forth paperwork burden later on. So
Yeah.
um,
No, I
um,
appreciate
I
that. I
guess
mean,
that's where I'm at. So
just have a conversation, right? And I think that that's, again, just how we've oriented this to be accessible and more human centric. I mean, that has to start with the process of actually engaging with an IRB, for that to kind of transcend into the actual work you're doing and what that review process looks like. So I think at this point, what we want to do is, again, take an opportunity to learn a little bit more about VIRB through our website, and then be sure to join us back for part 2, where we're going to talk more about our upcoming course launch and satisfying really that human subjects training requirement that we alluded to in the beginning of our conversation today. All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you being here.